Good morning, everybody. It is time for Trader Talk. At least it's morning here in Seattle, and it's well, let's double check and make sure the sound is on. So give me a confirmation that you can hear me, and we are ready to rock and roll. Thanks, Tom. Okay, let's just make sure our staff says that we're good. Yep, staff says we're good. Okay, all righty. Well, good morning, guys. It is so foggy here in Seattle. It's been that way for 3 days, and when it's foggy in Seattle in the wintertime, it's a good news, bad news. Good news, that means it's not going to rain. When we have fog, it is not going to rain, but it gets cold. And with the amount of humidity in that fog, it just cuts through you. So we usually don't get that kind of cold that cuts through you. I've been on the East Coast where I've had much more unpleasant experience with biting cold that just cuts through you. But we get it here every once in a while when it's cold and it's frosty and it's foggy. It bites. So that's your weather report. At least we don't have fires. Our hearts go out. My heart goes out. I've got a daughter that lives in Southern California. I don't know anybody personally down there that has been impacted by the fire, but I know that hundreds of thousands of people will be impacted, tens of thousands directly from damage, and just the ripple effects are devastating. So our hearts and prayers go out to those folks, really do. All right. Am I in the distance in the mountains or Puget Sound in the distance? No, it's the other way around. I'm close to Puget Sound and the mountains are in the distance. So I'm in Brenda, I'm in Redmond, which is a suburb of Seattle, one of the tech capitals of the world, actually. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all huge players, major hubs up here. Um, so yeah, it's a cool area. My camera's off. Yeah, you're right. My camera's off. I'll turn it on, but I may leave it back off because I'm sitting on the side of the road. I'm in the middle of some big projects. I started 7:30 this morning, working like crazy, and so I'm stopping to do the class. Happy to do it, but I am kind of swamped today. So I'll focus on what's on the screen, and you don't have to stare at my face. But there I am. I'd love it if you guys put your camera on. It's kind of fun to wave at you, but we'll just go with this. All right. All right. So let me share the screen and we will get going. Brenda said you went away. What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean by that. No face. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I did. I took my face away, Brenda. You really want it on there? It takes up part of your screen and I guess I'll put it on there. Like I say, I would. All right. So here we go. Just give me confirmation. You can see the Trading Coaches Playbook home screen there. Yes, no. Yep. All right. We're good to go. All right, guys, disclaimer. We are always making sure that any new folks coming in, if you've been around a while, you already have this memorized, but new folks coming in, guys, we are going to be talking about things that will help you in your trading. I am not going to be giving you spoon feeding you trades. And this morning, I'm not even going to go to any charts. I'm going to focus on something that is near and dear to me. It's a reminder for some. That's fine. It'll be some good news stuff for some of you. But the bottom line is this is crucial, absolutely crucial, because what people talk about mindset, and I, in my early days of trading, I had a totally different understanding of what this was all about. And so I want to share some good things with you. But first of all, just the clarification is that we are not going to be giving you any specific advice on any particular trade or trading vehicle or trading entity, stock, future, whatever that might be. All right. This is education. There is risk in trading, always risk in trading. And so we would remind you constantly that you understand how to manage risk. If there is anything more important than risk management, I don't know what it is. Strategy? Nope. Nope. Techniques? Nope. Technical indicators? Nope. The most important number one is risk management. It just is. It doesn't matter if you get blown up, all of those other things don't count. If you're not there to trade one more day, the rest of them don't count. All right. All right, here we go. This first slide throws up an idea, friendly fire. There's a terminology in military that has to do with a tragedy where people lose their life, but it wasn't from an enemy and it wasn't even from an accident. It was an act from your friends, from your compatriots. Friendly fire means that somebody on your team shot you, and that's a terrible tragedy. When it comes to trading, that simply means you did it to yourself, and that means it was unnecessary and it was avoidable, and you did it to yourself. So that's what friendly fire means, guys. As a rule, we tend to manifest what we believe. There's a principle that says, you think happy thoughts and happy things will happen to you. Well, that's a little Pollyanna. I don't completely believe that, but I do believe it to a degree because I've seen it, I practice it, and I think that it's legit. My friend has an answering machine that says, this phone only receives good message or good news, so please leave some. Well, I've called him and given him bad news before, but I think it's interesting that his attitude is, hey, I'm only interested in good news. Well, okay, but how many times do things not work out exactly as you planned? And I think that happens a fair amount of time. And so we have to know how to deal with that. But it is important, and there's nothing wrong with having a positive attitude and looking for and expecting good things. Why? It's not Pollyanna. It's because if you look for and expect bad things, you tend to attract them. Okay? The idea of hoping for the best and planning for the worst, that's a good thing because then you don't get surprised. If the worst happens and you're surprised, that's your fault. It really is. If something happens in your trading that is devastating, I'm really sorry, but it's your fault. Now, how can I say that? The market is cruel. It can hurt you. No, it can't. Listen to me. The market cannot hurt you. You understand? No, you don't. Let me explain. The market cannot hurt you. The market can't reach into your bank account and take money out unless you give it permission. You can't lose a stock that you didn't buy. You can't lose money on an option trade that you didn't trade, that you didn't put the money out there. It's your fault ultimately. Therefore, you need to do some preemptive thinking. Okay? You plan for the worst so that if the worst happens, it's part of the plan. It's not a surprise. It isn't something you go DEFCON 4 and jump off a cliff because you were hoping for and expecting something else. No, it's something that you plan for. That's why I say risk management is ultimate, the number one. No, nothing is more important. Okay? This idea of manifesting, I'll give you an example. You'll all believe this if you see it. So if you're doubting me a little bit so far, let me tell you. If I tell you to look for blue, you tend to start being able to see blue. There's something called a confirmation bias. If you buy a red car, don't you suddenly start noticing all the red cars on the road? It's not like there's more red cars than there was before, but you have what's called a confirmation bias. And so you will have a perception. You will think that, wow, there's a whole lot more red cars on the road. No, there isn't. There's the same that there were. You're just seeing them now, and they were there, but you weren't seeing them before. That's a confirmation bias, and that's simply a function of your expectations and how you manifest what you're expecting. So if you're expecting that the market's going to beat you up because it's done it several times before, and I'm about ready to give up trading because it always doesn't work out, well, guess what? It's not going to work out because you've already decided that, and subconsciously you'll help make sure that you manifest that. Okay? The subject of today, I'm going to introduce it now because I wanted to give you kind of this introduction, get started talking about something so that you'll realize, yes, I'm talking about risk management, but the theme of today is neutral, trading neutral. Now, I've had people laugh at me in the past over the years when I introduce this, but nobody's ever laughed at me after I explain it. It is possible to trade neutral. How do you trade neutral? Don't you have to have an opinion? No, you don't. In fact, you're a whole lot better off if you don't. You can trade neutral, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. All right? All right, back to the subject. Unmet expectation. The source of almost all unhappiness in our life is unmet expectations. It is sometimes the most devastating source of unhappiness. But unmet expectations are self-imposed and self-maintained. We've been talking about this. Why are they self-imposed? Because you set up an expectation that you had no control over. And it's self-maintained as long as you continue to believe that and believe that it was somebody else's fault that it didn't happen. So when you have an expectation, first of all, you better own it. If you have an expectation on something you have total control of, good for you. You will get the outcome you want. But if you set an expectation on something you have zero control over, you are setting yourself up for a world of hurt, financially and emotionally. All right. Disappointment, guys, produces stress. Stress produces cortisol. Cortisol produces inflation, the number one source of disease, uneasy, disease. That's what disease is. It's caused from inflammation. All different kinds, a lot of different names for different diseases. They all have a root cause of inflammation, which comes from cortisol, which comes from stress. Okay. You can enhance that to your detriment by saying, I didn't get what I expected. I didn't get what I wanted. So be careful what you want. All right. So Eeyore, you know, the donkey in Sesame Street, or no, it's in Christopher Robin. Eeyore, you know, that everything was always going to be bad, and so it was. Okay. All right. So let's talk about neutral now. This is our theme. So get this in your head, guys. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh. Thanks, Tom. When you trade, compare it to some sort of a competition. You know, we don't have to use sports analogies all the time. It's just that it comes real easy to me. Whether you play American football or watch it, or play soccer, which is the rest of the world's football, recognize that when you go to a game, when you go start trading, you're in the bleachers. You're one of the fans. You are not on the field. Now, you may think that you are because you're the one who's putting up the money. Well, good for you. But you're not. You're in the bleachers. Why? Because you have zero control of what's going to happen in that trade on the field. In other words, let me rephrase it. You have zero control over what the stock or the underlying security or vehicle is going to do. You can't control what the market does. All right. There are certain things you can control, but it's not that. You can't control the outcome of what's actually going to happen with that entity. Now, what you can do is you can leave. You can enter the stadium, which is to enter a trade. You can watch the trade, or you can leave. That's all you can do. You cannot affect what's happening on the field. You're affected by what happens on the field. And so you deal with whatever happens, and you've got to let go of the things that you can't control. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure. The history is against you. In other words, the history of your ability to control what happens in the market, yeah, it's a given history. It is not going to be in your favor. Your best attitude is to do the right thing in each moment. The winning will take care of itself. That's a very, very wonderful piece of advice I got from somebody famous a few years ago, year 2000. So it's been 25 years ago. It's still true. Do the right thing in each moment, and the winning will take care of itself. And the other one, don't lean into a punch. All right. It just don't make it worse on yourself. So how do you stay neutral? First of all, again, you're in the bleachers, folks. You are not on the field. The stock is going to do what it's going to do. The index is going to do what it's going to do. The option trade is going to do what it's going to do. You are a participant. You're in the bleachers. Your only option at that point is to set the conditions under which the conditions under which you will leave the game, or you will leave the trade. Okay. Here's another thing, and then I'm going to get more specific. I like to give you several examples of analogies, because at some point you're going to relate to one of them, or maybe two. That'd be nice, but somebody will relate to something, and that's what I want to get. I want to get everybody relating somehow. Move from somewhere else, guys. If somebody grabs you around your right arm and they have a grip and they weigh 300 pounds, you're not going to move your right arm. There's not much you're going to be able to do. But they don't have a hold of your left arm. Okay, so don't fight when somebody grabs your right arm and there's nothing you can do about it. Quit fighting it. Let go. Yeah, but I'm trying to get away. You obviously can't. You can feel how strong they are and how weak you feel by comparison. So quit struggling against your right arm, but your left hand works just fine. You can reach up and poke them in the eye with your left two fingers, do the Three Stooges thing, poke them in the eyes, and then you'll probably get away, right? You can always move from somewhere. There's some option, unless you only define one option. And then if that is gone, you tend to panic. If you only had one escape route, if you only had one contingency and that's gone, you're screwed. All right. There's usually always something else you can do. So risk management involves, and trading neutral involves, if then scenarios. If this happens, then I'll do that. But if that happens, then I'll do this. And then if this happens, I'll do that. And if you plan out the different things that could possibly happen in this trade, good and bad, then whatever happens is not a surprise. It's not a urgent thing. Okay. It's not a catastrophe. It's nothing to jump up and down and celebrate because you already had it planned out. See, what you want to be able to say is the stock did something. Okay, fine. It may not have done what it looked like it was going to do, and nobody said it had to. It looked to me like it was going to go up. So I set up a trade that would work if the stock went up. Well, it didn't go up. It went down. Poo, right? Woe is me. I'm so sad. No, I didn't know that it was going to go up. It just looked like it was going to go up. All right. Therefore, if it didn't, it didn't. And I should have already had that planned. What happens if it doesn't do what it looks like it's going to do? Well, then you have that contingency plan. All right. When you fight something, guys, you strengthen the opposition. You focus on something that you are going to potentially lose, probably lose. And it's a bad place to focus when you should be focusing on some other place that you can move, some other option that you can exercise that gives you the ability to move. Okay. All right. The next one says define the limits of the market power over you. That's what you have to do. I am going into this trade and I'm setting it up to where I will not let the market take more than $400 if the trade goes against me. If it does not do what it looked like it was going to do, I am not going to let it take more than $400. Is that possible? Yes. Is that a good idea? It's an excellent idea. Now it's part of a bigger plan. And if you're going to risk $400 before you pull a trigger on this, then I would suggest you needed to have at least $1,200 of incentive. If you didn't have $1,200 to $1,600 worth of potential profit, then why would you risk 400? Right? That's a 3 or a 4 to 1 ratio. And I don't like to trade without a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio. I don't see any reason to do that. I want at least 3 or 4 times what my risk is to make the trade worthwhile. Okay. So you redefine or you define what the market can take from you, worst case scenario, and make sure you're okay with that. So if it takes $400 away from me, I shouldn't scream and jump up and down and throw bricks through windows because I already agreed to let the market have $400. Really? Yes. Yeah. When you think about it, when you went into the trade, you told the market, I'm going into this trade because it looks like if it goes the way it looks like, I could make $1,200 to $1,600. Thank you very much. But if it goes the absolute worst case scenario, what's the worst that could happen? If it does that, it'll cost me 400. Therefore, I can't lose a dime, can't lose a penny, but I will give the market 400 if it turns out that it went the different direction than what it looked like it was going to go. So you have to agree to give up that $400 to enter the trade. You just have to. Now you redefine winning and losing. All right. As far as I'm concerned, guys, you will never win a trade and you'll never lose in a trade. You should never lose a dime, no matter how long or how much you trade. If you go into a trade and it costs you $400, you didn't lose the $400, right? I just told you. You gave it away before you ever started the trade. That was part of the conditions of the trade. So redefine winning and losing. Redefine winning and losing. If the trade goes on your favor, yay, it did what it looked like it was going to do. You didn't win anything. You didn't, how do you win? To win, you've got to beat somebody. You didn't beat anything. You went into a situation you had zero control over. You played it the way it looked like it was going to go, and it did it. Good. Money came into your account. Great. But you didn't win anything. Why am I making such a big point of this? Guys, because psychologically you are wired to respond to winning and losing. When you win, you celebrate. Yay, we won. When you lose, oh shoot, darn it. Do better next time. I hate those guys. You know, go around, kick things, yell at things, sit in a corner and sulk because we lost. Guys, that's so stupid. I'm sorry, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You can never lose a dime trading. If you're doing it right, you can't lose. It may cost you, but you don't lose. And that's a huge lesson, a huge lesson. I hope that that makes sense, guys, because this is what will allow you psychologically to keep on going. All right, the next principle is how you practice. Folks, you don't just jump into the deep end of the pool. Now, most of you are trading, and that means a lot of you are already trading. You're doing full-on trades. You're risking thousands of dollars. You've been doing it for a while. Good for you. But I'll tell you what, if you ever have a spell where things quit working, or if you're beginning, you need to practice. Here's the problem. The practice has got to be real. Practice does not make perfect. Practice, yes. Practice does not make perfect. People say that all the time. It isn't true. Practice makes permanent. Whatever you could practice something incorrectly and get really good at doing it incorrectly. It didn't make you perfect. It just made you perfectly wrong. All right. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. So when you practice, it's got to be real. I talk a lot about simulators, but the simulators have got to feel real. They don't have to feel real. They have to feel real. That's a typo. Simulators must feel real, or they're really worthless. If you can tell, oh, this is a simulation, well, then it's probably not doing you any good. It's got to feel very real. And there are good simulations options or products out there. And they're getting better and better with AI. All right. But in the end, nothing takes the place of experience. And experience is, in fact, your best teacher. So funded trades is ultimately your best way to learn. However, how do you transition? How do you survive funded trades when you are not very good, or you're just trying to improve, or you're trying to get over a slump? Well, you dose your way into it, guys. You gradually up the dosage. If you put in something where you're trading one contract and your total risk is 150 bucks, most of you can take a sigh of relief and say, okay, I'm not worried about the outcome here. I'm worried about seeing if my instincts or my ability to analyze is getting better. Can I see the setup on the trade better? Can I have more of the trades going in my favor because I'm accurately judging which direction it looks like it's going to go, positioning myself with the right target and the right size risk? If I'm doing that and it's consistently going in my favor and I'm only risking 150 bucks per trade, well, then maybe you can relax and do a whole bunch of trades until you go, okay, this is working. This is good. Let's bump it up to 300. Okay. Oh, it's still working. Let's bump up to 500. Here's what my experience is. If you say, okay, I got this, and you jump from 500 up to $5,000 per trade, you are probably going to have a bad experience. Okay. My best advice is that you dose your way up. Yes, you need to be funded with real funded trades. Okay. If you are really getting started, if you can find a good simulation practice method, do that, but it's got to feel real. The best training is going to start when you put 100 bucks onto it. It doesn't matter that it's only 100 bucks. The fact that it's any dollars at all makes it real. Subconsciously, you know it's real and it will change. You will act differently when there's money at risk. So just start out and gradually increase the dosage. Success will breed success. Now, when you hit a wall, back up, but keep trading. That means if suddenly the wheels come off the wagon and it was going fine before, chances are it's not your fault. Okay. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just the stock is behaving differently. The underlying vehicle is behaving differently. The market has changed. Okay, fine. So what do? You pull back the money level. You ratchet it from $5,000 all the way back to 150 bucks. Okay. And you go, okay, I got to figure this out and start trading, keep trading until you figure out, oh, okay, it's shifted. Now it looks more, if it does this, I've got to shift to the left just a little bit. I got to shift to the right a little bit. Now it's working. Okay, now ramp your dosage back up. Real simple. But I'll tell you what, most people will go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Or, yeah, I've heard that before. Do you do it? Yeah, well, and that's why I'm saying this, guys. Yes, it seems obvious, but most of you pay lip service, salute the flag, and you actually don't do it. Okay, that's just the reality. And I'm just reminding you that if you wind up getting in a slump, stop, think about it, but keep trading. Make some adjustments, ratchet the exposure right down. And guess what? If you ratchet your exposure down to 150 bucks and you do a bunch of trades and you still can't figure it out, stop trading. Just quit on that stock. If it isn't working, it's not working. Go to a different one. Go to a different index. But if you can't figure out, it's probably not you. You're not stupid. It's just the market and or that underlying is not behaving the way it normally behaves. And if that's the case, drop it. Go to something else. Move from somewhere else. That's what that means. If you can't move in one spot, if you can't figure this particular stock out anymore, if it's just not working, then it's not working. Set it aside and do something else. Now, in 6 months or 2 months, whatever, you may pop back in and say, I still really like this. Let's see if it's behaving better. And you try your setups. And if they start to work, okay, it's back to normal. Great. And you're back trading it again. All right. But you've got to change. You've got to morph. You've got to evolve because that's what the markets do. If it's not working, do something else. Move from somewhere else. All right. The principle here, guys, is neutral. The market cannot jerk your chain. It cannot fill you with cortisol and stress and inflammation if you don't allow it to. All right? You disconnect. When you have multiple options, this is what it looks like it's going to do. If this happens, I'll do that. If that happens, I'll do that. If this happens, I'll add more to the trade. If this happens, I will back out half the trade, and then I'll close the full trade if it does this. But now you just sit back and let it do what it's going to do. I know I don't have any control over it, but I can control my entry and my exit to the stand, to the bleachers. And I'll set conditions. I'll stay in the game as long as this happens. If this happens, I'm going to get up and head to the door and I'll stand there and watch it. But if that happens, I'm leaving. Right? There you go. That's what neutral means. I want to be able to peacefully and profitably coexist with the market. I think that's something that every one of you should adopt. That's something that I came up with. My goal is to peacefully and profitably coexist with the market. I'm not trying to beat the market. Guys, you know that little verbiage that says, there's a story about the snake and the person lets the snake in. And then after doing all these kind things to help the poor snake who was starving or cold or whatever it was, the snake bites him. They go, hey, wait a minute. I did all these nice things for you. Say, hey, you knew I was the snake. It's your fault. Right? Market doesn't like you. Market doesn't hate you. But it can hurt you, but only to the degree that you allow it to hurt you. Only to the degree you allow it to hurt you. You will find a niche, guys. You will find a niche where this works for me. I can handle trading Google. I just really like trading Google. I like trading Meta. I like trading Forex. Okay. I like trading whatever, commodities, whatever it is. As you take your set of skills, it's not a bad idea to try different things. And you'll find out that, hey, I really like this particular thing. Well, then stick with it. In my opinion, stick with it. You may find a niche that says, I do really well with a $50,000 trading account. And as long as I keep it around that, if I build it up from 50 to 70, I'll take the 20 off and start with 50 again and just keep going with 50. And if it builds up to 70, I'll scoop that 20,000 off and that might be your niche. And I say that from personal experience. I found that I did best around and still feel most comfortable trading with around a $50,000 exposure. Okay. When I had opportunities to trade 2 or 3 or 400,000 or $500,000, something would always go wrong. And maybe it's just my personality. I don't watch detail enough. But for some reason, the bigger numbers, I would change the way I trade. I don't know why. Did I make it a really, really important priority that I have to figure out how to trade $500,000 at a time? No. If it doesn't work, that's okay. If I can take the 50 and push it up to 70 or 80 and scoop this or skim the cream off and keep doing that, that's my niche. All right. That's my niche. If you like trading trade sizes that are in the $2,000 to $3,000 size on a trade, and that seems to work for you, excellent. Excellent. Nobody should be talking you into, and you shouldn't feel jealous when you see someone else doing it differently. All right. If you find your niche, do it. Okay. That's it, guys. Today, Brandon says I hate snakes. So do I. And that's absolutely that's my worst thing. I hate spiders, but I hate snakes a whole lot worse. Just I don't know why. It just makes my skin crawl. And my wife picks them up, lets them puts them. She'd put garter snakes and let them slither down her shirt, inside her armpits, and I can't even think about it. Yeah, hate it. All right. So I want some feedback. Guys, I want some feedback. What we've talked about here, I want to go back over the principles here, because this may seem like, yeah, we just talked about some stuff. Guys, if you don't get this, everything else is going to ultimately wind up disappointing you. Because if you don't have control over your risk, you are just an accident waiting to happen. I've been doing this for decades, and this is the strongest advice I can give you. When people talk about mindset and psychology and whatnot, I see so many things that I just shake my head at and go, you know what? You're trying to force something. Um, my gosh, Tony Robbins had a thing that I thought was humorous, and that is, he said some woman was talking to him about some exercises that she had been taught, where she could go out and look in her garden and she would say, I don't see the weeds. And I would say, there's no weeds. There's no weeds. I only see flowers. I like my friend saying his phone only receives positive messages. Tony Robbins says, how stupid is that? Of course there's weeds. Saying I don't see weeds doesn't mean there's not weeds. They're there. It's silly. And when somebody says, well, when you feel like this, just tell yourself da 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 da. Bull crap. I'm sorry, baloney. I meant to say baloney. Guys, when you're feeling something, you're the last person in the world to be able to tell you to think differently, because you're not in that frame of mind. When somebody says, when this happens, think this. That is so crazy, because that is a third party discussion. That's somebody looking at it saying, I see this. This is what you should do. And yet the person doesn't do it. And they say, well, I told them they should have done it. Not my fault. I told them. Guys, when you are the one that is in the point of the spear, when the bullets are flying around you, when the rocks are landing on your head, you're not in a third party position to arbitrarily sit back and go, well, do you think this might be a good thing to do? Or, oh, yeah, I remember I should do this. It just doesn't work. Okay. The best thing, the way they train people to do dangerous exercises, is to reduce the amount of dangers to where it's not going to kill them. It'll sting a little bit, and then put them into it. Get them in there. Let them feel that. Let them start orienting to and correlating. If I do this, that hurts a little bit. So, okay. Oh, I did it again. Darn it. Now their brain is going, okay, when we start there, I'm going to pull you back. Right? It's that reality training that actually starts to train the proper response. So, foo-foo stuff about most everything that I've read about mindset is that it's third-party discussion, even from really highly capable psychologists. It's still third-party instructions. It's not the kind of thing that you can actually do if you're the one that's under pressure, under fire. When you're training military, when you're training special forces, when you're training anybody that's in a job that has high risk, that's not the way you train them. You have to learn by experience. So you have to tone the experience down to where it doesn't kill them. And it doesn't hurt them so bad that they don't want to do it again. But it stings enough to where they start to, okay, that's a little too close. All right, now I got it. And you learn that, you dose that up, but it's got to be real. All right. Unmet expectations. This is what neutral is all about. Don't expect something you have, don't set expectations based on something you have no control over. Okay. Can you trade neutral? Yes, you can trade neutral. How do you do that? You create if then scenario. You create options that cover all the bases that you can think of. Now you sit back and recognize I have no control over this. However, I've set up the controls over the things that I can, and I've set up the way I'll respond. Why am I even doing this when there's risk? Well, because look at the size of the reward. I got a $12,000 potential gain, and I'm risking $3,000. That's a 4-to-1 ratio. That's why I'm doing it. But that also means that I am giving the market 3,000, no questions asked, if it wants it. If the market says, we decided not to give you anything, you're certainly not getting 12. In fact, we're not even going to give you 6. We're going to take your 3. You have to say, okay. Nothing you can do about it. You already told them it was okay to take your 3. So if you can't handle that, if you can't just walk away from that into the next trade, then you're fooling yourself. You weren't in the right mindset. You did not have the right perspective, and you certainly weren't neutral. Okay. But if you can shake that off and say, okay, let's go to the next one. Now, if 3 in a row hit you for 3,000, now you got to be backing off going, wait, something's not working right. This is supposed to be kind of back and forth. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've had 3 in a row or 4 in a row that went against me or were neutral. Maybe the market's behaving differently because it was working before. It's just not working now. All right. Good observation. So back off, reassess, cut the risk down, not 3,000, cut it down to 250, and then make some adjustments and see if that works. If it doesn't, quit beating yourself up. If you simply can't figure it out, quit trading it. Never trade that again. No, I didn't say that. I did, but I didn't mean it. What I meant was quit trading it, give it some time, and if you still really like that and you go, I'm still fond of that stock, maybe it's behaving. Let's look back. Let's do some back testing on it. Oh, looks like it's going back to the way it used to trade. I used to work. So now you implement your strategy, make some adjustments, have small risk, and oh yeah, okay, it looks like all right, we're back in it. Now you ramp back up and away you go. You're back on the horse and away you go. This is how you survive the process. Okay, this is how you survive the process, folks. All right. Let's see. Comment. I needed to hear some of these lessons on mindset for trading. Thanks. It was really good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Guys, like I say, I would be doing you a disservice if all I ever did was show you trades that were positive trades and how to use indicators and how to do this, because the market is never consistent. It's consistently inconsistent. It goes through cycles. Things that used to work really well will stop working for a while, and they may come back, they may not come back. All right. And if you are so leaning into the punch by thinking you got this dialed in and you walk into it and you get clocked and knocked on your fanny, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you, but darn it, you did it to yourself. You had unrealistic expectations. That's it. Trade neutral. Can you do it? Yes, you can. You can. Okay. Moving from somewhere else that's the principle. If this isn't working, well, go somewhere else. Try something else. Make an adjustment. Leave it alone. But if it's just not working, quit fighting it. You make it stronger if you keep fighting it, and the consequences go up. And the last part, so important, guys, redefine winning and losing. You're never going to beat the market. So quit celebrating in the end zone and quit knocking over the chip display on your way out of the store because the lottery numbers didn't work, so you kick something and push some little kid. That's silly, but people have such emotional responses to things that don't work out when they really thought they had it figured out. All right. So something doesn't work, back up, make adjustments, but keep trading. You've got to stay in it. You've got to stay trading. All right. And again, last thing, peacefully, profitably coexist with the market. That should be your goal. That should be your mantra. I'm going to peacefully and profitably coexist. Market doesn't hate me, doesn't like me either. Stock doesn't like me. Find my niche. Size of my trade, $2,000 to $3,000 trades, $5,000 to $10,000 trades, or the size of my trading account. I don't let my trading account get bigger than 80, and then I knock it back to 50. Or I keep my trading account at 250 and I trade 50 this way, 50 this way, and 50 this way. Whatever it is, once you figure out your niche, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay? There you go. All right, guys, that's it for today. God bless. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day and a good weekend. And please keep the thoughts and prayers going for those folks in California and the folks in Carolinas and Virginia and that the hurricane devastation that we went through that kind of made the news for a couple, 3 weeks and then disappeared. Guess what? I follow that. There are still tremendously inadequate responses. People are still suffering so badly. Some people still haven't got aid. It's the reports are abysmal. So, if you have it in your heart when you're saying your prayers, keep those folks in mind from the terrible hurricane devastation as well as these wildfires. Okay. All right, guys. Take care. God bless. Have a great day. Bye bye.